Hi guys, welcome to week 2 of virtual learning, and we're going to be working on Act 2 of Pygmalion. Last week I noticed a lot of you struggled with some of the concepts, so hopefully I'm going to go over a few things that will help you understand what's going on in the play a little bit more. I will tell you, if you go into Google Classroom on your actual iPad and look at classwork, it should split it up by the week. So notice how I have week of December 7th through 11th. That's this week. And then all of the stuff from last week are all under December 1 through 4. At this point, as far as late work goes, I'm taking activity 2.4, but not activity 2.3 at this point. Okay. Oh, whoops. Nope. Sorry. I can still take activity 2.3. So you can turn in 2.4 and 2.3 at this time. Okay. But preferably, I want you to work through what we're working on in Pygmalion, because you're going to have a test over this play. And it's going to happen very soon after Christmas break. I plan on trying to finish the play within the first week of January because we have one more unit to do before the end of school. So that's going to seem like a lot, but I really need you guys to stay focused and stay with me. Okay? A couple things that I didn't get to tell you about Pygmalion, I actually found the PowerPoint for. So I will be going through this really fast, and I'm also going to put the PowerPoint in Google Classroom for you. Okay? So, whoops, sorry, I did something weird. There we go. So what's going to happen here? Well, maybe. My computer's going a little crazy. I didn't get to go over a lot about Pygmalion before we actually started. We did do a little bit with the Mise scene, which is from Activity 2.4. All right, this is when I asked you to look at these pictures. All right, when you look at these pictures, I'm looking beyond, hey, there's two guys and a lady and people standing there looking at them. That's really obvious. What we're trying to do is we're trying to go deeper into this. Look at what kind of lighting they're using. It's really dark and depressing and really kind of somber. They're all wearing dark colors, okay? What kind of mood does that imply then? Because darkness isn't something that's usually happy. So you're trying to determine, why is the person conducting this play using somber tones and colors? What's the purpose there? You'll also notice that this gentleman is in a top hat and tails. That's dressy. Okay, that's like going out to the theater, going to a fancy dinner or party. He's really dressed up. And then you have this lady here who is not dressed up at all. She looks like she's barely surviving. Why are they in the scene together? So when you look at the mise scene and when you think about those things, what is that trying to tell you? Okay? Because when you read the actual play, all you've got is the characters and what they're saying. You just got dialogue. So when you read the play, you're looking at dialogue and going, what's the dialogue telling me? And I want to show you some of that. The Project Gutenberg is a really awesome website. They put the whole play on here for us, so I didn't have to try and get you copies of Pygmalion. If you read it instead of listened to it, you would have looked at how Eliza, the flower girl, talks, and you'd be like, what on earth is she saying? Because at the beginning, Shaw writes in her actual, her actual dialect, which is really, really hard. I'm trying to find it, sorry. And Shaw eventually, just gives up trying to write it in her actual, dialect, because it's so hard to actually write in that dialect. So right here it says, ow, he's your son, is he? And I can't even pronounce it halfway, because I was taught formal English like everyone else. And it's depicting a dialect of the streets of London. And Shaw, when he's writing it originally, he wants to show you, hey, this is depicting her class level because she doesn't know how to speak in proper English. And so he eventually even just gives up on trying to write it because it's so difficult for him to write in such a weird accent. And fun fact, Kansas and Maryland are one of the few states that actually don't have an accent. Mrs. Umanzer, the yellow secretary, used to pick on me a little bit when I came back from Michigan because apparently I have a slight Michigan accent. I don't even notice it because, born and raised there. But everyone has usually a slight accent. And it's pretty obvious, like people from Texas or the South, we all know them. Their accent's very obvious, okay? A lot of foreign languages. Russian is a very distinct accent. So I'm geeking out just a little bit, but English is really cool because language itself has so many forms and accents and word usages. Um, English is a fun little like melting pot of all of those things. And it's really hard sometimes to learn English because we steal words from all over the place. Um, I will tell you that even though I took acting and did some drama in high school, my accents are terrible. But you guys also kind of noticed that I say yesterday, I drop my vowels. That's actually something my family does a little bit. And in Milwaukee, they kind of talk a little different. And if you'll notice this, there's like a slight inflection in my words that are slightly different right now. And that's because in Milwaukee, they kind of talk a little differently. And it's really kind of funny. And when you go like live in different states, you'll notice your accent changes just a little bit to match who you're talking with. It's really kind of fun. And it's fun to mess with your friends if you ever want to do that. Um, so that's kind of the fun thing about Eliza is she's a product of where she was raised. Really interesting though, she is literate. She can read, all right? And she gets kind of offended um, when the note takers actually um, like writing down all of her words. And this really cool section where um, they're saying, he's not a policeman, he's not going to turn you in. What you have to understand is during that time period, if a woman was on the street, she was on the street because that's all she could do. And usually desperate people do desperate things. And so prostitution happened. Okay, FYI, it did happen. We're adults here. And when that happened, the police were usually involved because it wasn't legal. And so she's worried about getting arrested for doing something immoral or like, being a prostitute when she's not one. She is not. Okay? She's literally selling flowers out of a basket trying to make a living. And she even says here, like, cheer up, Captain. Nah, you fought. I can't even say it. She's asking if he'll buy a flower off of her. And, the note taker is actually kind of making fun of her in a way, but he is actually interested in how she's talking. And even in here, the people are kind of talking about how the note taker is kind of one of those guys who's really rude, okay? And the note taker says, well, I can tell you where you came from based on your accent alone and how you speak. And there are people that can do this. And so the note taker like literally goes and starts saying, well, based on how you talk, this is where you're from. And they don't believe him, and so they walk through all of this and say, yeah, this is, oh my gosh, I can't believe you picked out where I'm from. It's kind of like Sherlock Holmes, except for language, which is really kind of fun. Then the part that I really wanted you to notice is like what he does for a living. So like the note taker, yeah, right here, simply phonetics. So that's something we don't talk a lot about in English, but phonetics is how we put sounds together. This is when you're talking about like syllables, pronunciation, doing a bunch of vocabulary, especially in like kindergarten through third grade. You do a lot of like word pronunciation, and that's called phonics. So when you actually say like knife, you know it's spelled Knife. Phonetically, though, the K is silent, and you just say Nife, knife. Okay? So phonetics is the sounds that we make to make our words happen. And so his entire job is going through and explaining how these sounds work. It's really kind of cool. And the English tongue, or at least really any kind of language, our mouths and tongues can make so many different sounds. And I can't remember how many there are. Higgins mentions like 130 of them. I don't know if that's all of them. It's been a while since I took linguistics. But if you take linguistics in college, it's literally about the study of language and how our language has evolved. Okay? And in here, the gentleman asks, can you actually make a living off of like phonetics? And the note taker goes, well, yeah, there's people who like make their fortune, but they still sound like they're from the poor slums. So being able to talk effectively is really important because if you can sound professional, people will take you professionally. So I hope that kind of helps. This video is running a little long for this section, so hopefully that helped explain it a little bit. On the PowerPoint, I go through like the author. I talk about him a lot, and then like the purpose. Shaw's purpose is to actually show us like human failure and how we can be better than we are. And we've already kind of gone over like the origin story, but please look over like the class system and stuff. I didn't get to go through this a lot because I only have 15 minutes for this video. So please look this over because it's going to help you figure out how to write your diary entries a little bit more accurately. Okay? I will put this in Google Classroom for you. So it will be in the week of December 7th through the 11th. Look it over. It'll give you some good background on like what's going on in the play. For Act 2 reading, the Project Gutenberg, this is the actual play. It'll take you right to Act 2, so you don't have to look for it if you already opened it. Here is the audiobook, but I will tell you the audiobook's really long. Like, I read Act 1 in less than 20 minutes, and that's how long the audiobook was. So this is really long to listen to it, but maybe you listen to it better. I also put one of the main scenes from My Fair Lady from Act 2 in here, so you can watch it kind of and see like, oh hey, that's what's going on. I'm a visual learner, so I like having videos to watch. Then you have a discussion post. You have to answer all 3 questions in your post, okay? These are pretty self-explanatory, but if you get stuck, please ask questions. The Act 2 questions is a worksheet, pretty self-explanatory. You're just going over who the characters are, and when it says notes while you read Act 2, this is where you summarize what's happening in Act 2. There will be a test over Pygmalion, and I will allow you to use your notes, i.e. these worksheets, if you filled them out. I'll allow you to print them and do that, okay? And then the last one here, compare Eliza's situation to the theme of being a stranger in the village. When we talk about being a stranger in the village, we're talking about that moment where you meet new people or you're a new kid in town and you don't know anybody and you don't know anything and you feel like a fish out of water. You don't know what's going on. You feel really socially awkward. You're quiet because you're like, I don't know who to make friends with. Are these people friendly? I don't know. So when we're talking about the stranger of the village concept is like explain how she feels outside of her comfort zone. Okay? And then the last one is the diary entry. This one is you're pretending you're either Eliza or Higgins, and you're continuing your entries from last week. So you should have like the before reading in Act 1, and now you're going to have Act 2. So think about what happened to the character in Act 2, and go over, okay, what are their thoughts, feelings, emotions, what happened? Okay, Higgins does some things to Eliza that's really kind of borderline nasty. So take that into account before reading Act 2. All right? But look at their interactions and what happens. Okay? And please email me if you have questions. Also, please make sure you show up to check in for attendance on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays because people have not been doing their jobs. So please, please, please let me know if you have any questions. And I miss you guys terribly, but I'm hoping after Christmas break I'll see you soon. Bye for now.